Hi guys, this is Tim with InflatableOffice and Event Office, and I'm going to go through some dashboard stuff here today. The big thing I'm going to do is show you a little bit more about how it works, and we're going to do that by adding a coming events widget. We had it on our previous dashboard. We did not add it to the new one, and some of you are missing it, so I'm going to kind of show you how to do that. I'm going to start first with just kind of an explanation of what you would want to be doing here. So what you're going to want to do is add a data table in this case. It's going to look, similar to this down here. But if you were to go ahead and click Add Data Table, there's a lot of things that you haven't really set up yet, things that we need to know for that data table. One of them is a report. So what a report does is it defines the data that we are going to display to you. You get to choose the columns that we're going to display. So things like organization or date or whatever. The other thing that we want to do, because this is a coming events widget, the time is important, right? We don't want to see anything in the past. We want to see things in the future. And we also don't want to see anything that is not a certain event. We want to see stuff that is actually booked, okay? So we're going to have to set up a filter as well. So I'm not going to do this part yet because we're just going to have to come back here. We're going to kind of go in order of what I would recommend. First thing I'd recommend doing is going to the filter. So we're going to search for filters. Here we find the filters. And then we're going to type in coming events. Get used to typing that in because I'm going to use that a lot. We talked a minute ago about how we want our status to be representative of what items that we want to include in the report. So we want anything that's in a contract status. Now these statuses may be different in your account. It depends on how you have it set up. But we're going to say anything that contains contract in the status name, but we can have other ones too. So the other one that we're looking for is confirmed. And I don't have to type the whole thing out if I don't want. I could say contains confirmed if you don't remember the entire status. But anyway, we want either or if they're in either or of those. And then we also want to do something with the dates that we talked about. So we're going to do the start date. And I think that you can use, you could use the start date or the start date and time, either one, it doesn't matter. I find the date one to be a little simpler sometimes. And instead of a fixed range, we're going to say the next 60 days in this case. You could do 100, you could do 10, you could do whatever you want. This is going to define what leads we're going to put in that report or what events we're going to put in that report. Now, the next thing I want you to notice here is that we have an or in here. If you have an or and you want to then put an and in, a lot of times what you really need to do is add a new group, okay? Because in this case you can see that we want either or of this, but we always want this to be the case, okay? So that's why we had to add another group. If we were to add that in here, we would have had either contract status or contract or confirmed status with 60 days in the next 60 days. And that's not what we want. We want the 60-day thing to apply to both statuses. So we have to add it as a group, okay? See how that works? I hope so. It's a little confusing, but this is something that we added with the new system. It enables you to really build powerful queries of your database and get the data that you want. So anyway, I'm going to save this. And now we have our coming events filter. And now we get to go to reports and build the report. So let's find reports. Here we go. I'm going to do the same name here just so I don't get confused later when I'm looking through my reports and stuff to know what it's supposed to be. I'm going to pick my start date again. I'm going to pick these are just columns that I think might be useful to me. So let's see. I'm going to do a count of rentals. That'll kind of show me how many items are going, and then maybe I would want a phone number or something. Put the office phone in there. So let's go ahead and do one more thing here. You can order your columns by clicking these arrows if you want, but I kind of put them in the order I want them already. But I want to sort by this start date because even though this report is going to give me all the data and the filter is set up to give me all the proper data, we don't have any order to it. So I could get something June, something in April, something in June, something in April. What I want to see is everything like from today, April 22nd, forward, okay? So I want to sort by this date, and I want it to be ascending because I want that date to grow as that date is reported. So it'll start with April 22nd, 23rd, 24th, etc. Okay, so now one more thing I want to do here is I want to add the coming events filter to the report. That is not necessary, but in most cases when I use this coming events report, I really want that coming events filter applied to it, and so it's going to make it a little more convenient for me if I choose that. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the leads page, and we're going to test this report out and see if it's doing what we want. You'll notice at the top here we have these columns and all of this data in here, and the order that it is just our default settings. But what I can do is click in here in reports, and I can choose my coming events filter or report, and it's going to put the filter on for me because we already set it to do that. And it's now going to show all of my data, and you can see it's in ascending, it's growing, and the date, and we're seeing the number of rentals that we're taking gives us a size of the event, and so forth. And there we go. It looks pretty accurate. I think it's good, so we're going to go ahead and move to dashboard, and we're going to go ahead and add it now. So I'm going to go click Add Data Table. Again, I'm going to type in coming events because that just makes sense. Here's where I choose my report, and you can search it. So looks like I have two in here. I'm not sure why. I was playing with this earlier, so let's try this one. And then we want to pick our time value, which will do the same one that we were using in the filter, lead start date. And instead of a fixed range, in this case, it makes the most sense because we're doing a report that has a filter associated with it, and that filter is time-based. We're going to want to use this use filter. Things get a little weird if you try to use a different time on a filtered report that is already time-based. And the last thing we want to do here is pick the filter because we're going to use the filter for our time information. So there we go. We've got everything set up. I'm going to go ahead and create that. And here it is, and we can make the size different, whatever we want to make it. It looks nice if I stretch it all the way across. And we can see that we do indeed have all the data in the way we want it to be. And we can click load more if we want to see more. And if you have a lot of data in there, you may have to click load more a few more times if you want to keep seeing it all. That's really done to make this load quickly for you. Now, if you were to change this in general, we have this set up so you can change this time value and get different information in your report or your chart. When you're doing a report that is time-based like this, changing this is not going to work properly. So if you're seeing use filter up here, you probably just need to stick with that. It may be later on that we could come up with a way to make that work a little better for you, but for now, you're best to rely on your filter for that information. Again, as we showed you before here, you do have that option to do the report and view it here. You don't have to make the dashboard widget if you don't want, but you can. If it's something that you're commonly going to look at, you probably want to make it one of your dashboard widgets. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it makes you a lot better at building reports and dashboard widgets for your account. Thanks.